Layers is an immensely powerful way in Photoshop to composite several images, add text to an image, or even add vector graphics, graphics that originate in Adobe Illustrator, for example, that are made up of points, unlike Photoshop, which is made up of pixels. In this image, we have one locked background layer, which is the way all images start, and I could copy and paste to get another file in, but I'm going to choose Adobe's File Place. And when I place, I could choose a number of Photoshop formats, I could choose .ai for an Illustrator format, or thousands of different image formats. I'm going to select the pair.psd Photoshop document. And when I double-click or hit place, it puts it in this bounding box, this frame that allows me to scale the image. Now I'm going to move the pear to the upper left corner, and my goal is to make this Mardi Gras pear look like he is actually watching her dance. I'm going to hold down my Shift key as I grab the corner and let go of my mouse first. Holding down Shift as you grab the corner when you are scaling keeps it proportional. If I let go of Shift before my mouse, it might get really wide or really tall. It would be disproportionately scaled. If I'm outside of the bounding box or scale rectangle, I'll see these little bent arrows that'll actually let me rotate this a hair. And I can use my up arrow or down arrow keys to nudge this guy to get him in the perfect position. But I'm going to let it go and either double click or press Return or Enter to finish the scale. There we go. We've got a happy pear in the window, and it picked up the file name of pear for the new layer. So that was one way to create a new layer. You could copy and paste something in. You could do as we just did, choose File, Place. But now I want to create a layer from scratch for a caption below the window. So I'm going to choose my rectangular marquee tool. And to protect the bricks and the original background photo, I'm going to choose from my layer menu, New Layer. Now I could click the New Layer button at the bottom of the Layers panel just to whip up a new layer, but I prefer to use Layer, New Layer. That way it lets me name it, because poorly named or unnamed layers like Layer 1, Layer 2, Layer Copy 1, Layer Copy 2 keep me up at night. So I will call this Fill. And I could name it Fill Color, but I don't know what color I'm going to use yet, so this is just a fill for the caption. And I have a completely empty layer. If I hide the pear layer by clicking the eye icon that indicates layer visibility, you could see I have just the background. If I click the eye next to the background, I have nothing. All the checkerboard means it's clear or empty or transparent. I've clicked the two layer visibility icons to turn pear and background back on, and fill is still highlighted or active. So every layer above the background acts like a clear piece of acetate stacking one on top of the other. Now I'm ready to put a color into a rectangular shape. So I will click and drag, starting kind of off the screen. I really started out in this darker gray area. That way I know it goes exactly to the edge when I make a selection. If I try to get it perfect, I might miss. So it's safer to start way outside. And I can use my up or down or left or right arrows to nudge this before I fill it. To fill this, I'll choose Edit Fill and select a color. If I choose color in the Fill dialog, it actually gives me an eyedropper tool where I can click to sample a green from the image. And I'll click OK, and OK again. And now I'll choose Select, Deselect to get the marching ants to go away. And while this is a nice green, it's really overpowering or distracting from the image. So I'm going to go to the Layers panel and slide the opacity down between 40 and 60%. You can leave it at any number you'd like, but I don't want it to overpower. I just want it to call attention to the caption I'm about to add. Now over in my Tools panel, I have a foreground color of black and a background color of white. I'm going to hit the teeny tiny swap arrows once, so now white is my foreground color and black is my background. The reason I chose white is so that when I add text, it puts it in white. If I click my horizontal type tool once and click once on the image, I can type dance like nobody is watching. And I was playing with fonts earlier, so it picked up my Arial Rounded 66 point. I'm going to do select all, and you may not have Arial Rounded. In fact, I think I'll go back to left alignment on this and move it. With type, if you click in the letters, it deselects. But if I hit Command A or Control A to select all, or even have nothing selected and move anywhere outside the letters, it lets you move the type. And I think I'll change this break, dance like nobody, and I'll put is watching down on the next line. And I'll need to do a select all, Command A or Control A, and make this smaller. I'll use my scrubby sliders, clicking and dragging on the T's to visually make this smaller. And then I'll tighten up the leading. Leading is the technical term for line spacing, because it used to be a piece of lead. And so if I go to my options bar, I can toggle the character and paragraph panels and tighten up here the leading or line spacing. And again, there's scrubby sliders to let me do that visually. To make the text more readable and have better spacing from letter to letter, I'll choose optical. And if I want to play with fonts and find something more funky for this caption, I can click right in the font name. I believe the default font is Myriad Pro, or it may be Minion Pro. So if you see those words in your type portion of the options bar, click directly in the words but not the arrow to the right, right in the words, and hit your down arrow key on your keyboard, and it will go alphabetically through every font on your system. Now I purchased Arial Rounded, so I think I might settle on that. Chalkboard is nice too, but I'll go back to Arial Rounded. So just a heads up, when you open this file, you may get a missing font warning, but if you don't edit the text in my finished file, it should still be okay. And I have created new layers by bringing in a fill layer, making the layer from scratch, filling with a color under Edit Fill. I used File Place to bring in another image that was silhouetted, and I added a new layer by putting type into the shot. And I'm going to use my Move tool and just nudge this type a little bit to the right. I could also do Free Transform if I want things bigger or smaller, but let's finish this off by making the pear look like he really belongs in the window. In your Layers panel are blending modes. So you could try one of the first ones that jumps out at me, Darken. Darken the image with this color, and it almost looks like a reflection of the pear maybe standing where the camera viewer is. I could try Soft Light, where it looks like maybe the pear is actually inside the window, or Hard Light, where it's more extreme and it looks like the pear is really in front of the window. So you can experiment with these different settings and leave it on the one you'd like. I think I'll settle on Soft Light so it looks like he's peeking at her from inside. So I hope you've enjoyed this tour of creating new layers, and see if you can work along with the video to create possibly your own caption, but a new fill layer, and place the pear into this photo to come up with a completely new composition or a new message for this image.